Becoming a racing driver has never been easier with Castle Combe Circuit. Book your ARDS novice drivers training course at the Wiltshire venue today. The easiest and quickest way into competitive on-track action.
Welcome to Castle Combe. My name's Alan Cooper. I'm the Chief Driving Racing Instructor here at this circuit. We're here today to do the Novice Driver Training course, often known as the ARDS course, which is the first way to start off and get your racing driving licence. So, no further ado, let's get on and show you what's involved.
So you've seen the format. Everyone here today passed their tests and now have their racing licence. Who knows? The next time I see them could be as I commentate on them in front of the usual packed house of racing fans here at Castle Combe Circuit. All you need to do to be next is to visit castlecombecircuit.co.uk and select Become a Racing Driver under the Racing tab. Becoming a racing driver is easier than you think with Castle Combe Circuit and Motorsport UK. Good evening and welcome everybody. Oh goodness me, my camera seems to be a bit blurred there, doesn't it? Not entirely sure why. Let's switch to the other camera. That's a bit better. Sorry about that. Not sure what happened, but good evening everybody. Welcome to episode 35 of Combe TV. And what a special one it is. Previewing one of the ribbon events really at Castle Combe Circuit every year. It is the Autumn Classic. And there was only one person that I could have join me for this one, and that is the font of all knowledge when it comes to this. A guy that I owe quite a lot to, actually. I've had this conversation with him because he was the first person that I actually sat up in a commentary box with at Castle Combe when I was taken on as a trainee commentator. And he asked me how it went at the end when I was watching and learning what to do. And I said, I don't think I can do it. I thought I knew plenty, but I don't know anything. When I've listened to this person come out with the information that he knows is just second to none. And he could have taken me out of the game right there and then. And he turned to me and he said, Chris, don't beat yourself up on that part. That is my particular thing. That's my niche. That's my style. You've got to find your own way. And I can assure you it's not the same way as this person's because my brain's not big enough to contain all this information. But I've always appreciated those words of encouragement at a time that I'd been briefly psyched out. And that was now 9 years ago. And I'm one of the busiest commentators going and very humble to him. It is, of course, talking of humble, it's Marcus Pye. Let's bring him in. Marcus, good evening, my friend. How are you?
Evening, Dorsey. Yes, very good, thank you. So in other words, what you're saying is that it's all my fault.
It is, mate. Yeah, you could have stopped it right there and then. I think the wife would probably still blame you for it as well.
No problem. I could have in the bar, but I'm really glad I didn't, because it's been a great joy working with you over the years. And you know far more about the actual nitty-gritty of Castle Combe and its club racing championships than I will, because you see nearly all the rounds, which is a joy for you, and I wish I could see more. But I love the place. I've been going to Castle Combe since 1967, and I don't intend to stop anytime soon.
No, and good, glad to hear it, and good to hear we're going to have your dulcet tones. Sadly, we're not working together this weekend because I'm off covering British GT and British F3 and things like that. So I'm going modern, you're going for the classic stuff at Castle Combe. So we're on separate sides of the country, unfortunately, this time. But we've worked together not just at Castle Combe, but we've covered things like Masters Historic at Brands Hatch. I think was possibly the last time we worked together, something like that.
Yeah, definitely. We've done some historic stuff, and it's always been great fun. We bounce off each other very well, and that's what it's all about when you commentate. It's actually not about what you do necessarily, it's how you react to the internal influences, what's going on, and bringing a second set of eyes to the game is very important, and really makes for a great commentary.
No, it does, and I thoroughly enjoy it, my friend. So let's catch up with people. Great to see the comments coming in. Oh, thank you. The current Mrs. Dawes brings me a refresh. Don't panic. It might have been empty, but I'm full now. Have you got a drink on the go, Mr. Pye?
I've got a cup of tea.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. Well, in fairness, I've got tea, but it's got a G in front of it, so it's got to be done. Got to be done. But people coming straight in. Jamie Peters Ennis, evening, lads. Evening, matey. Evening all. Will there be a downloadable entry list? I am informed the answer to that will be yes. Let me just check to see the latest, if there's been any more. No, it doesn't look like there's anything just yet in terms of the entry list. I think they were kind of giving them as much time as possible, weren't they, really, Marcus, to be fair?
It does fetch your free DigiGuide here, which is the one I printed off.
Early version. That's the nod and a wink version, that one, Marcus.
I need to know who's out there on the track. I might not recognise it.
Yeah, absolutely. It is there, and as you see, Marcus, I've sent him one. It will be downloadable. I just checked; it's not there yet, so I suspect it will be tomorrow that will go up, and it is a nice DigiGuide that's got everything in there, and so you'll be able to grab hold of that. And I know Marcus is. You're not happy that this current day and age we just end up with the DigiGuides, don't we, wherever we go at the moment, which is not your flavour, is it, really?
Well, I think when you have all the previous programs from the previous years, you want to maintain some continuity. And I understand that it's very difficult. We've all had a very, very tough season. Just very, very grateful that the event can go ahead in the form it's taken.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah. So, Mike Cotton, you will have a downloadable entry list for sure. Incidentally, by the way, one that I know might even be a change in what you've got there. Sadly, Chris Rea won't be racing this year, which is a shame. I know he's been in poor health. I don't know if that's the reason, but he won't be there this year, which is a shame.
He was at Liddon Hill a couple of weekends ago for the HRDC Historics on the Hill, another fine meeting. With that same relaxed style that Castle Combe's famed for. It was absolutely sensational.
Well, I've still not been there, bizarrely. I've not been to Liddon Hill, so it's on my bucket list. Chris Mason, obviously from the medical centre. Good evening, all. Chris Parr, that's Papa Parr. Good evening, matey. Drewster Original, one of our Mighty Orange Army. Evening. Our start line marshal, Keith Rain. Good evening to everyone. Where's your photo gone, Keith? Because it had one of our shirts on. What's happened to the Dilly Dawsey and Davis shirts, eh? Come on. Gerald Howell says, episode 35. Wow, I know. Thank you all of you for staying watching, and I'll keep going as long as there's an appetite for it. I'll keep going, even through the winter. I believe we'll get guests on and go back to the sort of like the banter and guests and all of that sort of thing. Because it is nice that it brings us all together. Christopher Britton, Dilly Chris, I'm looking forward to being in Orange again this weekend. See you there. Good man. You won't see me. You'll see Mr. Pye. Oh, sorry, that way. Pointed the wrong way there.
You.
Yeah. The dancing marshal, Pippa Gore. Where did you say you're at this weekend, Pippa? I can't remember where you said you're going to be, but I love it. Whenever I was at Donington Park last time that she was there, and she waved up and at the commentary box and was dancing because I called her the dancing marshal. So hi, Pippa. Lewis Bird, evening gents, dilly dilly, dilly diddy. You've changed it, mate. That sounds like the drunken version of it.
Hamilton's coming on later.
Yeah, yeah. Pippa Gore again says, here, I might be getting a lodger to raid my gym bar. Leave that gym bar for my visit, Pippa Gore. That looks amazing, your gym bar, I've got to say. And happy birthday for the other day, by the way. Was it yesterday? I can't remember now, Pippa. The week's gone mental. Another one of our Orange Army, Tim Perry. Evening all, dilly dilly. Hope all is well. And in case you're wondering, Marcus, it's become the rally cry for the mighty Orange Army is dilly dilly. There's history behind it that I won't bore you with, but it's become the rally cry now, and hence you can.
I thought it was Lavender's Blue Dilly Dilly or something like that.
Yeah, no, just from the what's it? The Bud Light advert, dilly dilly. That's all it's from. So. Chris Mason, no gin for us tonight. You've run out. Goodness me, Mr. Mason, that's a lot of gin because I saw the pictures with your Manfire and your gin. Cheers, Mrs. Dawes. So Tim, yeah, absolutely. Cheers, the current Mrs. Dawes. Look at that. We've even got two-wheeled royalty, Rob Jones, evening from the Radstock Rocket. And he's now a commentator as well, Marcus. He had to step in on the weekend, just gone at the bikes. He was due to be spannering, and sadly, the commentator that was due there was taken ill and well, and they got, I forget who it was on the Saturday, and Rob Jones, our instructor at Castle Combe, stepped in to commentate from Old Paddock on the Sunday.
Sounds like the beginning of a new career.
It could be. Apparently, it was very entertaining, so well done, mate. Awesome job from what I hear. I didn't get to hear it, obviously. Scott Thompson, evening. Mike Cotton, if you're not there, will Combe TV be on air, Chris? Afraid not, Mike. I'm sorry about that. It's not set up for this one. I don't know about the Classic Sports Car Club meet in October or not yet. I'm there commentating for that one, but it's a slightly different kettle of fish, so we don't know what's happening with that one yet. But not for Autumn Classic, I'm afraid. I do believe now, and this is a good addition, Marcus, that you might not even be aware of, is that you probably are aware it didn't historically do it, but the commentary goes out on the TSL webpage from Castle Combe now. You know,
yeah, that's right. We've done that a few times over the season, yeah, and it works.
Not at Castle Combe. Not at Castle Combe. It's never been there. Bizarrely, we've never had it. But now, with the things that got in place post lockdown, is that we've now actually got it. Like we get it at some of the other circuits, is that we now get it at Castle Combe. So you'll be able to hear that there if you can't hear properly. Drewster Originals. That's quite a bookshelf, Marcus, mate. That's your Autosport.
It is my bound volume set that goes back to the very first Autosport in August 1950, when I was about -8, and it contains every issue that's ever been published. So it's
really
a ready kind of source of information for things of yore that I need to catch up on.
Did you create those books then?
Well, I bought a whole bunch of bound volumes at one point, and then we had a guy come in and knock up the bookshelves. Had to sort of shore them up very heavily.
Yeah,
so heavy tome, but no, it's something that I've continued, and I managed to get 2/3 of a set to the point where I got into the 90s, I suppose, from a guy who was an old racer back in the day, and as a result of which, I had to drive to the Isle of Man to get them, which was quite something.
Right, good.
In a hired transit van, but nonetheless, yeah, I'll have a say it. And I know that Jeff Bloxham, our snapper from the classic lensman, as we call him, he has a set as well.
Well, that was what I thought. Is it's not something that you could just go down to WH Smith's and buy those things, can you?
One at a time, you might be able to buy an issue, but but not the bound volumes.
No, exactly. That's what's so cool. That would be worth a bob or two in the future, I bet.
What's really weird is, of course, that I started writing for Autosport in July 1977. So there's the vast majority of those you'll see on the shelf behind me because I've been doing it for 43 years, are issues that I've contributed to in one way or another.
That is just so cool. That is really, really cool.
Some of the times and years back in the early 80s when I was competing in the Formula Ford race, doing a bit of commentary, or a bit of photography from the side of the track as well, I had to try to multitask, but unfortunately my multitasking skills have fallen away. Of course, Mrs. Pye and the pilots who don't perhaps quite share my enthusiasm for it.
And talking about Formula Ford, we had your old Formula Ford at Castle Combe the other week.
Did you?
Yeah. Josh Fisher piloted it.
Excellent. So he's been out in it, which is really, really good news. Yeah.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
It is beautiful. Yeah, yeah. It's a car with very full history too. It was originally raced by Rob Cooper, who was a very well-known Merlin exponent, and he won races at Silverstone and Thruxton in it back in the day. Has a full history through from then right to now.
Wow, because I didn't realise you didn't even own it anymore. I thought you still had it.
No, sadly it had to go, and I have a daughter at university, and other irons in the fire, and it seemed like the best way around it at the time. I'm not ruling out having another. I very much hope to have another, because I raced the sister Merlin Mark 20 in South Africa. My friend Ian Hebblethwaite's car down in Zwartkops and Killarney at Cape Town back in February. My first races for 10 years, and I was quite prepared to be underwhelmed and not enjoy it. But of course, 3 or 4 laps in, this was just the best thing that's happened in a long time. So I definitely want more.
Well, certainly it was stunning. I mean, it was being run by Wayne Poole Racing, and Wayne Poole.
The guy's cars, and of course the chap who bought the car is the guy who also runs Josh in a more modern car. So it's good news, and it's gone to a good home. Stayed in this country, all the things you could wish for a very historic Merlin. And on my Facebook page today, on Sticker of the Day, coincidentally, it's number 184 in the Lockdown Challenge series, is Colchester Racing Development's Merlin Racing Car sticker. So anyone wants to have a look at that, there's 184 stickers going back through the history of motorsport right to the sort of back into the 60s, early 70s. And I have a bunch more, so I can keep going for a year or 3 years.
Awesome. Well, fair dues. And they're racing it at Walter Hayes apparently as well.
Apparently so, yes. I'm really excited by that, and it may well be that I can get up there, because I was due to be in Portugal that weekend, and it looks like the logistics of that might be a bit too difficult vis-a-vis getting back particularly, and being available for other things.
Yeah. Do you know whether they're allowing spectators at Walter Hayes? I'm not sure yet. I don't think they are they?
I believe not in the conventional sense, but who knows? Who knows what will happen between now and then? We don't really know what's happening in a week's time, let alone a month.
No, I know today. Obviously, it was announced that there will be no spectators at any British Superbike or British touring car rounds for the rest of the year. That's now been confirmed for the rest of the year, because it was under the major sports thing, wasn't it, that from the October the 1st it was supposed to be relaxed, and of course the government have gone, no, we're delaying that, and so they've gone, forget it, we can't do any this year.
But the good news is we're going to have members of something like 25, 30 car clubs coming to the Autumn Classic, which I think is very encouraging, and it lends it a fine atmosphere as well. Something that we always look forward to at Castle Combe.
Yeah, absolutely right. And then if anybody has got tickets, remember, as far as I'm aware, they're on sale until midday tomorrow. So if you're thinking about it, go and get it Saturday and Sunday, or Saturday or Sunday, take your pick. But get the tickets. There's nothing going to be for sale on the gates, because no circuit's allowed to do that. It all has to be in advance tickets, because it's fully managed. There are no physical tickets that are sent out, so don't then start chasing them going, I haven't had my tickets. Your confirmation is good enough, plus there might be e-tickets or something to that effect that gets sent through, but either way you'll have the confirmation email that says you've got it. Your name will be on the list. It's one entrance and for the spectators, and that's at Quarry. However, The good news is now you're able to go from quarry all the way round to camp. You can't go all the way round because you then have to go all the way back again. So you can cover that whole section. And the added reason why that's good is all of the clubs are behind camp, apparently, and their entrance, if you're one of the clubs, you have to come in at the camp entrance, and that's where they will be, and you will be able to wander around and see all those cars that happen to be on show.
Red entrance, isn't it?
So again, sorry?
Red entrance.
Probably.
So the gauge is the same colour as the other one, but it's called the red entrance.
Yeah, exactly. But no one's allowed in the paddock, I'm afraid, and I know that's a real loss for the Autumn Classic, but it just isn't possible. And again, that's the same across the country. And equally, anybody who's in the paddock is not able to get out and mix with the public. It has to be two distinct bubbles. That's the only way the council and government and whatever else will allow us to have anybody else in there at all other than competitors. So stick with it, and of course it'll be the usual thing is keeping your distance, no bigger groups than 6, and by the way, they do check. We've had police in, we've had government officials in at the other events, and they'll just check to make sure it's happening, so please stick to that. If you're going into the loos, put your mask on. If you're queuing for food, follow the instructions that are there. That will probably be wear a mask while you're in proximity queuing for food or drinks. Happy birthday twice still. They haven't reduced that yet. It is still 2 times singing happy birthday while you're washing your hands. So keep doing it. And everybody will be safe and we'll be able to keep going. As I say, a lot more of it is going to be open for you to wander around, but the entrance is still at Quarry Corner.
I used to do when I went to Castle Combe as a spectator. I used to try to walk around the whole track pretty much during the day. And if I wasn't reporting or commentating, then I could do that. And I'd go and watch a race from each corner and just move around. There's different vantage points. And it's just lovely to see different angles. I know we all have our favourite places to watch, but it is good fun to move around.
I used to love doing that. However, I used to have FOMO as well, fear of missing out about if I'd have stayed at Quarry, what would I have been seeing now? But I'm now at Tower and I can't see it. I'd always have FOMO without question. Incidentally, by the way, and as I say, you can't walk all the way around. I think it's the gate where if you're at Quarry and it goes down the hill to start going down what they call Chippenham Road, so down past Avon Rise, that will be closed. You can't get down there. Nobody's allowed in what they call Chippenham Road, so along Avon Rise down towards Folly, and then of course nobody else allowed into the paddock. If you're in the paddock, then it's basically out the front that you're able to look across the start finish line, which actually people have realized that you can see a little bit more than you thought stand there, because you can see them heading up Avon Rise in towards Quarry, and of course you can see them coming round camp. So if you're there, don't panic, you can still see plenty. Just quickly going through then, the comments are coming in thick and fast. Wonderful to see. Pipagore, that's the answer. You're at Castle Combe this time. Glad to hear it, because I know you were hoping to, weren't you? Tim Perry, when I said about the show keeping on through the winter, this is the best way to keep us together. That was always the idea, Tim, as you know, mate, and certainly I'm up for it. If the viewing requirements there, then I'll keep doing it. So it'll be good. Clive Woodward, your co-commentator for the weekend, Marcus says, nice glass of red and look forward to commentating with Marcus this weekend.
There you go. Well, it's great to hear from you, Clive. I'd recommend a very nice little Animus from Aldi. It's a remarkably good value and a fabulous Portuguese red, Douro red. Tastes like a £20 bottle, I was told, when I sampled it about 4 or 5 months ago. Haven't looked back.
What's it called? Animus?
Animus.
I'm going to have a little look at that myself then. I'm just I'm quickly noting that one down, because we do like a bit of red wine as well. So I'll have a look for that. Pipagore confirms it was yesterday for a birthday. Happy birthday. Lewis Bird says, I haven't touched a drop on the project cars in a bit. I might join you later, Lewis, then. Chris Mason says 4 bottles. What, 4 bottles of gin that he's had this week while he's on a well-earned holiday? I'm pleased to hear it, mate. Straight in the hot tub as well. I know, I've seen it. Chris Ignall, evening everyone. Hope the weekend goes well. Shame it's not on Combe TV. I'm sorry, mate. Only so much I can do, and I think it was just too much to pull it off, I'm afraid. Chris Whitty says, notice that Marcus is missing 4 bound volumes of Autosport from the shelf behind him.
That is because they were at Wittipaldi's house, where he's doing research into a big feature and story and book on Tolman Motorsport, in which he was intrinsically involved back in the day. And of course, it's 40 years since Brian Henson won the European Championship in the Tolman TG280 with Hart engines and BP sponsorship, and Derek Warwick, his teammate, finishing second.
Love it. And I'm impressed. So he knew Wittipaldi. I like that. I like that nickname. Tim Parry, unsurprisingly, says, wow, amazing collection. And I think we've all agreed it is just really impressive. Jeff Gendall, even and all, always love the classic weekend. Shame it's not going to be on the stream. Sorry, guys. Good luck to all competing at the weekend. Sean Wynn, the grass cutter. Hi. I don't think you were at the bikes last weekend, were you, Sean? What happened there, mate? I think I was building you up in the preview show, and I don't think you were down to be racing, which is a shame. Chris Parr, Papa Parr, what a fabulous Autosport collection, Marcus. I could get lost for months looking through theirs. Do you still do that, Marcus?
Get lost for months?
Reading them, you know, do you still go back to them?
Unfortunately, what happens is, of course, you tend to look in there for something, a particular sort of topic, and then you find something else in that issue and the adjacent ones, and that's you written off for a couple of hours. But no, it's a very, very useful resource, and one that I'm very, very glad to have. I had some Autosports when I was a kid. I used to walk about 3 miles down my way on the way to school on a Thursday morning to pick it up. Used to read it under the desk surreptitiously in our double French lessons. Our French master, who was a most amusing Welshman, when he discovered I was doing it, was rather upset. He said, "So which will be more useful to you when you leave school, boy? Autosport or French?" And I said, "Well, I sincerely hoped it would be Autosport because I hadn't learned much French. Now, of course, I've learned a bit more French as well, but." 20/20 hindsight is a valuable commodity, as you know.
Mm. Yeah, that would have been a powerful mix, wouldn't it, to have both of the above? Crikey. Jamie Peters is looking forward to my first ever autumn classic. Is it really, Jamie? Wow, that surprises me. Nice, relaxed weekend of watching some wonderful machinery, and it really is. I mean, it is just incredible kit, but they still race hard, don't they, Marcus?
That's the whole point of it. The competitors love coming to Castle Combe for the autumn classic. I mean, a lot of the teams. The whole kind of setup demographic of motorsport has changed such a lot over the last 20, 30 years. Many people now have their cars prepared by professional teams, but there are still the diehards who want to do it themselves and love doing that, and just compete for the hell of it, which is great. But those who lug around Europe month after month after month during a season, taking their cars, running numerous clients, etc. They love nothing more than to come to wind down the Autumn Classic and to get out there and really enjoy it. I know Patrick Blakeney Edwards is a prolific winner at the event over the years. He said he wouldn't miss it for the world. He said it's absolutely incredible. He loves coming there. All his team love coming. They stay locally. They have a bit of a party. They really have a good time. And run numerous cars across the gamut of races, which is great. The other person who I was amazed 2 years ago when we won the GTN Sports Car Cup race, which has a phenomenal entry this time, was Gary Pearson, who hadn't been to Castle Combe in something like 25 years or whatever, and he couldn't really understand why he hadn't. He enjoyed it so much, he's come back.
That's a lovely compliment then, isn't it? I mean, it is bizarre that he probably hasn't. I mean, I guess he's gone looking for the blue ribbon circuits.
You go where your customers dictate.
Yeah.
Those events as well, if you've got the cars sorted. Gary, obviously a highly respected specialist Jaguar preparer, as well as other marks. He's one of those incredibly versatile guys who can jump in absolutely anything. He still has the first Formula Ford that he raced, the Hawk DL11. But he also has a kind of a Formula One car and a Group C car and this, that, and the other. But he can pedal them all phenomenally well. But he loves jumping into a car on treaded Dunlop tyres and sliding around all over the place, as you do in a historic environment. And that's where he kind of cut his teeth in a way with his family and all their racing activities. And you don't forget how to ride a bicycle. You watch these guys; they test very regularly. During the season, a normal season, they're probably out testing once a week with a customer's car or their own. But it's a very difficult challenge to counter when you're there as a sort of a weekend warrior, turning up. Wow, Gary Pearson's in that, Simon Hadfield's in that, Martin Stratton's in that. So we might finish sixth if we're really lucky. But of course, for some, going and racing, having a good time, maybe with a mate down there or a wife or girlfriend or partner, whatever it may be, to enjoy the action and to come home at the end of the weekend with a car that hasn't got a scratch on it, hasn't missed a beat, and is still running strongly, is a win. If you're preparing the car yourself, bottom of the garden, you can't do better than that. Have fun, enjoy yourself, pick up the occasional trophy. Very lucky, but many people don't. But it's all about the whole field of any racing, club racing, historic racing, whatever. It's the big broad spectrum that makes the racing what it is. And the Autumn Classic is fabulous. The fields this year are really, really strong.
Yeah, it's one of those unfortunate sort of things, really, isn't it? Yet another one with the whole COVID situation is that, of course, it's been getting bigger and bigger year on year on year. We've just felt it just grow. And of course, to be a 2-day event this year was a big deal, and it still is. We've still got the grids, and great to see that we got spectators. But of course, it's not the fully immersive, interactive thing this time.
It was a long-term aim, wasn't it? Because it had become very popular, it began to outgrow that one day. And because, of course, it's the 70th anniversary of Castle Combe, this is the perfect handle on which to hang it. I'm mortified for Castle Combe and everybody involved in it that this was the year of years. Yes, the 75th will be there, hopefully, in 5 years' time, and that'll be something very, very special indeed. But at the end of the day, this is a circuit that has been going since 1950, one or two minor hiatuses along the way, but it's still there and still providing some fantastic entertainment, some brilliant fun to drive. It's a great, great circuit to drive. Even with these chicanes in it, or deviations. I did the very first event with the deviations in March 1999 in a Radical. And it was really strange for me. I'd raced there also. Well, I'd attempted to race there, I think I probably should say, in the 80s without any success. In fact, I don't think I actually managed to finish a race in the initial guise, thinking about it. But it was always a joy to come there to Combe. And as I say, the same feeling I got when I went there as a 9-year-old in '67, still enjoying it just as much today as I did, and it's good to see the new generations coming. And every time you go back, there's people bringing their youngsters along, and hopefully they will become brand fans as well, because it is a very special place.
Absolutely, 100%, and it will still be a big event. Obviously, you talk about the 70 years is that we were due to have a big event in the shadow of Concord in Bristol. That was going to be the end of season do, which sadly that's been kiboshed, and not sure what the story's going to be on that. Let's wait and see what 2021 brings before we work anything else out. But it's still going to be a big event. The grids are big. I mean, historic racing is just incredible, and it just seems to be growing, not just things like Autumn Classic, but growing in health year on year. And I mean, you're talking about it appealing to both sides of the spectrum when you've got the likes of Andrew Jordan, of course, British touring car champion, that races and I've spoken to him off mic, off record, and he's turned around and said, this is the best thing I've ever driven. And that's after he'd done the British touring cars. He's done World Rallycross for Red Bull, and so he's in an amazing piece of kit there. And yet the historic, I'm trying to remember, what was he in?
Well, he's in, at Lytton
Anglia
Hill last month. He and his father, Mike, who's the same age as I am, were charging round and round in Austin A40s.
That's the one. Yeah.
And it was brilliant. Now, my father and my late godfather bought an Austin A40 in 1958 when I turned up, because they couldn't sort of between them and my mother transport the young child in a pre-war MG. So the A40 came along. Well, I tell you, the A40 that my father and Uncle Mick had, they were the people who brought me to Castle Combe in '67. Didn't corner quite as well as a Children's A40. I mean, probably cost 7 and 6 in comparison. But at the end of the day, to see them tyre squealing round Liddon Hill, which is a 1 mile circuit, effectively the reverse of Brands Hatch, with a hairpin towards the end of the lap, was absolutely brilliant. They decided to start, I think it was the last race, from the back of the grid to give them a challenge, and they charged through. I think they finished 3rd and 4th, something like that. But it was absolutely superb to watch, and there was nothing between them. And these cars were just superb. They're beautifully presented.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not knocked up in a lockup by any stretch of the imagination. It's professionally engineered cars. But at the end of the day, the spectators who were at Liddon thoroughly appreciated the chance to see top drivers giving their all in cars which resembled cars that most of them probably saw when their parents were kids as well.
Well, exactly, and I mean it shows that it's just sort of crossing that divide. That's the amount of fun you can have. Another one that, of course, has got, because both Mike and Andrew Jordan have. Well, Mike probably has got more of a connection to Combe. We've seen him in the GTs and all sorts of crazy kit over the years. I'm still hoping that we'll get Mike and Andrew Jordan on a Combe TV in winter. That would be good, but. Another major friend of the circuit, massive friend of the circuit, and he's already been a guest and was a wonderful guest, and I class him as a friend these days. Nigel Greensall, he's another one that jumps into all sorts of historic racing, and yet he can be in modern kit as well, very modern, piloting some yet to be driven in anger race cars, and yet he adores the historic racing.
Well, we were going to do a show together, a sort of a live show earlier in the year at Castle Combe. We were both absolutely up for it, of course, when the lockdown was announced. And so we were disappointed that wasn't going to happen. I know that, having spoken to Nigel again recently, I saw him at Goodwood at a test day a couple of weeks ago, and I've seen him elsewhere too, and spoken to him on the phone, that we will do it in a heartbeat as soon as we're able to. We'll come down to the tavern or wherever it's going to be, and we'll do an evening. And talk about motorsport as we do as mates. He's a tremendous driver. He's a great asset to historic motorsports as well as modern. And at the moment, he's building up for a customer a Riley and Scott Mark III, kind of like an IMSA Daytona prototype type car thing, which is going to be fascinating. He's also got, I think, 3 Toyota GT86 rally cars, and he's, I think, leading his class in one of the modern rally championships at the moment. In one of those, they're rebuilding a Chevron P19, I think, for the customer. So there's no shortage of opportunities there to get Nigel to talk about. He'd love to come back and have a crack at the current circuit lap record.
Absolutely,
that original one. Just over 130 miles an hour, which is absolutely extraordinary.
Average speed, exactly, yeah.
Tyrrell Juddo 22.
Yeah.
And he said the remarkable thing with that was that he drove it. I think he'd driven it very briefly a couple of times before, but in terms of Castle Combe, the morning kind of acclimatization session was very wet.
Yeah.
The subsequent session, which was the qualifying session, was wet but drying. The first time he drove the car on sticks was in the race. And
then he had a problem with the gearbox, didn't he?
The race, he had a problem with the gearbox. But yeah, I'm just amazed. That would have been incredible to watch.
Exactly, and go back, if you go into the Castle Combe Facebook page, Castle Combe Circuit Facebook page, and go into the live section, and you'll see all the past videos. I can't remember what episode it was that Nigel was on. It was a fairly early episode, but go and check it out. It was a great interview with Nigel Greensall, well worth a watch. So if you haven't seen it already, I know a lot of you have watched all of them, but if you haven't, go and watch it. I do recommend that one. It's really good.
This weekend in the GT Sports Car Cup, which is which is splendid. So he never misses an opportunity to come and race at Castle Combe.
No, exactly. I'm delighted to hear that. And I'm pretty certain someone else that's there, and actually the link is that where obviously Nigel had that pre-chicane record, and there is somebody that wants to come and try and beat both records, as in they want them to remove the chicanes and let him have a crack without them, and to try and beat the record with the chicanes as well. His dad is going to be racing, I think, this weekend, but it's young Alex Fours, 19-year-old he's racing an F3 Cup in Bottas, his old Formula 3 car, and they reckon that he can beat it. But Richard Fours, or Ricardo Forez as I call him, just for a giggle, I'm pretty certain he's racing. He normally would be there in an Alpha of some description.
Yeah, he's down. I think he is driving an Alpha with one of his buddies, but he's driven Lotus Elites before and other things.
Yes.
So,
very good friend of mine, and the whole family, very good friends of mine, and we're out for dinner with them the other week up at Donington Park and everything. I know he can't wait for this. And as I say, that's another one that you've got his lad racing. Well, in fact, he was in British Formula 3 at Donington Park the other week as well, and fared well in that one. So
Richard Fours won the Fiskar race with back in 2014 in a Lotus Elite with Mark Ellis. Got it in my commentary notes here. So really, really good. But are we going to run through some of the?
Just getting a refill. Hang on.
Blimey.
Thanks, Mrs. Dawes.
Those who won those at a fair. Or something, or maybe something you get from a cocktail in.
Well, I drink like a fish, so why not? Absolutely. Just quickly before we do that, let's just quickly catch up with the comments. Clive Woodward, I'm not sure what this was about. Josh set a new class lap record.
In the Merlin.
Of course, in the Formula Ford. Sorry, Clive. Yes. So there you go. Your car set a new class lap record.
Well, yeah. Unfortunately, it's changed colour. So
it has.
Not my car anymore, but I still have an emotional attachment to it. Do you know I never drove it? I was never able to drive it. I didn't even sit in it because that would allay the disappointment of not being able to do anything with it. But I was just thrilled a bit to lend it to Ben Mitchell, who's a really good mate, a terrific driver. And he maxed it from the first time he drove it in anger was at the 50th anniversary of Formula Ford race at Brands Hatch in 2017. Got a podium straight out of the box. The engine was pretty sluggish at that point. And so we had it done by Mr. Bold, the great Neil Bold. Got it all freshened up, came out of the Walter Hayes, and it was absolutely flying. And of course, he flew throughout the 18th season. Maybe that runner-up in the championship, but he's got plenty of wins in it, and ran the car himself. It wasn't professionally kind of looked after like his rivals. But there you go.
Wasn't it in like didn't you have it in? Was it like a cappuccino colour?
Jimmy's Iced Coffee.
That's the one.
A great local enterprise here just down the road in Christchurch, and it's been a huge success story over the last decade. And we were pleased to run their colours. They love extreme sports, and that year it just fitted in really nicely with their marketing plans. And I was taking huge, great ice boxes of Jimmy's Iced Coffee to the event, and then giving them out FOC to the competitors. And at Thruxton, where Ben had 2 brilliant wins, lap record, etc., they brought their promotional caravan down and met the fans and gave away stickers and things. It was just superb.
Wow, that's fair play. That's really, really impressive. All right, just quickly with his comments, and then I'll wind you up and let you go, Marcus, with the details. Leon Smigielski, looking forward to the whole weekend, hopefully getting up there tomorrow late afternoon, camping all weekend. I hope that means you're competing, Leon, because there's no camping as far as I'm aware. I might be wrong, but I didn't think there was camping for spectators. But
if you're really keen, I suppose you could throw your sleeping bag in a ditch outside or something. Yeah, like
just outside the gate. Exactly. Yeah, first in queue for the next day. Yeah.
I do that thing, and not throw the sleeping bag in the ditch. But I used to be in the first queue for the racing car show when it was on a Townsend Torreston car ferry at London Bridge and things like that.
Wow.
Couldn't miss a minute of the action.
Absolutely, absolutely. Peter Flanagan says, good luck to Team Black Pudding on Sunday with the Wolseley Hornet.
Squadra Babino Nero, as they call themselves. Yeah, absolutely.
I think I've even commentated on those guys in the past somewhere. It just rings a bell, that one.
Yeah, very much so.
Chris Mason says, Mason's on tour at the moment, coming to you live from a hot tub in Woburn. There you go. That's more information than we needed, isn't it? Yeah, it's, probably, yeah. Gerald Howell says, it's my first marshalling the Classic too. So looking forward to a brilliant weekend. I mean, wow, what a not his first time marshalling, but his first time marshalling the Classic. I mean, that to get that close, Marcus, it's going to be amazing, isn't it, for him?
It is. It's blowing my mind, actually. We've got such good fields pretty much across the board, and it's a very different atmosphere. You see the cars move around, obviously, a lot more than you do modern ones.
Yeah.
And, once you get involved with classic car racing, historic car racing, I'm sorry, you're going to get hooked.
Yeah, exactly right. And that includes Tim Perry, who says that he's now attending in his Orange Army capacity as well. So, I mean, again, at Castle Combe, bless you, all of you Orange Army, because I know that it's been, I don't know whether you know this, Marcus, but it's been oversubscribed for marshals. Richard Beard's had a terrible job of actually having to go yes and no and work it out and trying to level it out. I mean, what an absolutely incredible situation.
Well, it's a nice problem to have in a way. It's not a nice problem to have, but it's good that there are sufficient volunteers out there who want to come and be
exactly.
in the and,
exactly.
You know, I've done it myself in the past, a long time back. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and it certainly brings you closer to the action than any other seat in the house, including mine.
Exactly, and that's the point. And I always say is that no one gets closer to the action other than the drivers.
Right, exactly.
And where we've gone, Clive Woodward says we'll try that, and I'm pretty sure that's reference to your wine tip. So I've noted it. He's noted it. Other people have as well. Yeah. If Aldi sell out of it, it's our fault. Well, your fault, but I'll take part of it because I talked about it as well. Pippa Gore's bringing the lemon drizzle and bread pudding. Is that together? Is that like a new thing? I'm not sure. Is that a hybrid thing? I'm not sure. Jamie Peters Ennis says it usually clashes with the commentating commitment, but this year I have a free weekend, so it would be rude not to. Again, someone else saying, Mark Austin, are you showing the Classic online as well? I'm sorry, guys. No, I'm not. I'm elsewhere this weekend because this obviously we didn't know that it was going to be quite so popular with the thing. So get yourself some tickets and get there. That's the best thing. Get tickets, get to the circuit. That's what we want. We've got more space to fit you all in this time, but they're not on sale after midday tomorrow, so get in there and get them bought. Martin Weeks will be there on Saturday. Is there freedom to walk around the circuit, or are there areas cordoned off? Apologies if you've already heard this, Martin, but just to repeat because it is important. At Quarry Corner, and you can go from Quarry, so you can't go down Avon Rise. It's closed at the top of Avon Rise there, round Quarry, all the way down Farm Straight, Old Paddock, down to Tower. Now you can go even further, and you can go Bobby's and down to Camp. And at Camp is where you're going to have the clubs set up as well, so you'll be able to see that. You can't go any further than that. You can't go in the paddock. You can't go over the Avon Bridge and carry on round. And Chippenham Robes all closed off as well, which is the bit that's from Folly up Avon Rise. That's all closed off to everybody completely. But a big improvement, so that's great. Mike Cotton answered as well. Enter at Quarry, can walk clockwise to Camp. So you did see that. Is our very own Emma Strawford. She couldn't stay away. Look at that. I like it. And she said that Andrew Jordan was testing his Mini today at Castle Combe, actually.
Ooh, taking it seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. Wiltshire College's David Campion says some brilliant cars there today. Looking forward to the weekend. That would be the teaser, wouldn't it? Seeing them testing there today.
I was very tempted, but I just couldn't justify getting up there today, I'm afraid. Other things to do, other fish to fry.
Yeah, exactly. Tim Perry, and I think this is referring to yourself and Nigel Greensall, says would be amazing to see you both and hear your stories and experiences. So that would be good. Unsurprisingly.
We'll do it as soon as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. And Emma's confirmed Nigel Greensall was testing today as well. Pippa Gore congratulating the current Mrs. Dawes for bringing me more gin. It just keeps me pacified, to be honest. That's my pacifier. Goose from the Quarry Hardcore, late on parade. Looking forward to getting wet Sunday. It is going to be a damp one, isn't it, Marcus, by the looks of it?
Yes. I think if the commentary box leaks, then we'll be in trouble. So working on the basis that I probably will stay dry, but I do feel for those who may experience the precipitation.
They're hardcore, aren't they? It won't even dampen their spirits. This is a good one. Tom Hunter Jr. of Formula 4 fame. Hi guys, really appreciate the video cast. Just checking in real quick to say hello from California, and I hear it's hopeful that he may be coming back over to race in the Formula 4s at Castle Combe next year. So
be very good, wouldn't it?
It would.
Do racing in the rain in the States, but plenty of racing in the rain here, and it certainly sharpens the reflexes, and it's a fantastic experience. I've raced in the rain many times and thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Picking up on what I said earlier, firstly, Emma has confirmed what I was pretty certain was the case. No camping for spectators. However, I'll also bring up that Leon says he should have said that he's marshalling. Sorry, Leon. You know what it is. As soon as I see it, I've got to make sure I'm keeping the official lines coming and what have you. So that makes sense now. Chris Pearson, Tog Pearson, says best wishes to everyone for a cracking weekend. I'll be missing this one as I need to remember who my wife is for a few days. Marcus, we know that one, don't we? We know about keeping ourselves out of trouble every now and again.
Indeed.
Chris has been there taking a lot of photographs. In fact, next week on the Club Racing UK podcast and video live show next Wednesday, 8 p.m, myself, Chris Pearson and Ross Parker are guests on the show to talk about everything Castle Combe by the sounds of it. So I'm looking forward to that. And thanks for inviting us onto that one. Just a couple more comments to come up. Christopher Carroll, hi Marcus. Just checking, you received the sticker I sent you.
I did indeed, Christopher. And there will be some reciprocating stickers coming back.
That's what I like to hear. Fantastic. Tim Perry says, I've marshalled 2018 and 2019 Autumn Classic events and I don't want to miss it if I can help it. So he's pleased he's back on it. And Pippa Gore confirms it was two separate cakes, not just the one mixed together in a hybrid. So thanks, guys, for the comments. As you say, Marcus, let's get on to preview. I mean, we could just keep chatting forever and ever and ever about all of this and interacting with everyone. But as you say, is that the grids are just bumper, aren't they? And the program.
They are, and I think what's brilliant is that after a couple of years away, we've got the 500cc Formula 3 cars back, and that does take us right back to the birth of the circuit in July 1950, when there were some fantastic battles. Sterling Moss was there, Peter Collins was there. And those 500cc cars have a very, very special place in the hearts of many Bristolians, because it was in that part of the country that 500cc racing was first kind of dreamt up in the austere post-war years. And the motorcycle engine cars, which became adopted as Formula 3 in 1950, always put on such a good show, and many of the Grand Prix drivers came through. Stuart Lewis Evans was another one to do just that, and the likes of Les Leston, Don Parker, Jim Russell, the great motor racing school man, was a triple Autosport British Formula 3 champion in 500s, and they were special little cars. The Cooper Japs, the Cooper Nortons, we're going to see them out at the weekend. Another range, I think it's 11 or 12 manufacturers in the field, which is absolutely brilliant. Most with Japs and Norton engines, we'll see the odd Triumph in there as well. And thinking back to previous years, Darrell Woods won the race last time round. It was held 2017. In his Starlight, the Erskine Starlight car made in Southampton. And there were two of them, 1 and 2, because second in the, here it is, in fact, those are the two Starlights. 59 at the front there is Javier Kingsland's car, which finished second, and Darrell Woods in the red one behind. They were made by Mike Erskine, who was famed as a manufacturer of speedway motorcycles. And the speedway frames were called Star Riders, and the race cars were called Star Rides. They were made at Stony Cross, just up onto the kind of the top of the New Forest. And yeah, fascinating little car. But this takes us back all the way to, say, the early days of Stirling Moss as a teenager making his debut in these cars. He won at Goodwood in 1948. He didn't manage to win the 500 that first time out at Castle Combe. But of course, Stirling, who died fairly recently, in his 90s, was somebody who came back to Castle Combe on many occasions, even got flicked out of his 500 on one occasion. So, yeah, great things. But the race looks fantastic. We've got Richard de la Roche in there, a previous winner of the race. And 2014, when the race first happened, Steve Jones was the winner. He's one of the Red Bull air racers, and he flies Warbirds as well, flies Spitfires at some of the displays. And he's a pretty local man to Castle Combe. But I've always loved the 500s. I first saw them hill climbing in the end of the 60s and early 70s, when they were, of course, more than a decade old. But followed them pretty closely. I've hill climbed one myself, a Cooper Mark V, Pete Wright's car, which was the car that Alan Brown won the 1951 Luxembourg Grand Prix in, which sounds a little far-fetched, but absolutely true. The field is brilliant. We've got
just quickly, Marcus. Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to quickly pick up. I mean, I'm just loving that image, and they are very different, aren't they? Those two cars are very, very different looking. I mean, very, they don't look the safest things in the world, but you just look at the details of both of them. They are completely different from each other.
Well, those two are both Star Ride. If you saw a Star Ride and a Cooper, you'd know they were different. And but what I thought was amazing, we had a track test at Brands Hatch. I suppose it would have been probably towards 10 years ago now. And we had Alexander Sims drive 500 Formula 3, a 1 litre from the 64 to 70 era, a 1600 from the 71 to 73 era, an early 2 litre car from 74 onwards, and then a later 2 litre car. And the first thing the owner of the 500, a Cooper Norton, Nigel Chalice, said to him, straight-faced, was, "So, Alex, seatbelts in or out?" I was a bit shocked, but he enjoyed it nonetheless. And they're fantastic little things. You've got to really keep them singing. They don't make a lot of talk, particularly in the circuit specs. Some of the hill climb cars running with Jap engines, they really are quite talky. But Coopers were the mainstay of 500cc Formula 3. The father and son, Charles and John Cooper, they made hundreds of the things. With the early ones made with Fiat Topolino suspension, and it really established the British production racing car industry as the preeminent one in the world. And so many things came from 500cc Formula 3. And say, we've got Coopers, we've got also in the field, we've got some JBS cars, we've got Martins, we've got various other Star Rides, of course. Iota, a really early car. And it's fascinating to me. I just love them. I can't get enough of them.
How many are in the field of that, roughly speaking, do we reckon?
More than 20.
Wow, really?
And it'll be rolling starts because they don't have self-starters on them, and they're kind of, they can be a little recalcitrant, but at the end of the day, they're lovingly prepared, very well driven, and I think they're going to be the perfect kind of opening gambit for this weekend of historic activity, and one that really links the Autumn Classic this year back to the start of Castle Combe in July 1950.
Of course, yeah. Well, now I'm actually envious just looking at that with those tiny tyres as well. As there's going to be some serious driving skill there as well.
Then you see the drivers wrap their arms round the side, underneath the belly of the car as they go around the tighter corners. That's quite a technique.
Wow, really? Love it.
Yeah, very, very good. So looking forward to that. That's going to be a very good early start. Of course, not quite so historic, but still dating back to the early 60s are the minis we're going to see there. They're going to be incredibly close. The Mini 7s and the Mini Millias. The Mini 7s used to be the 850cc cars. They're now out to 1 litre. The cars that were 1 litre are now 1275s. And there's nothing like minis hunting in packs around a quick circuit like Castle Combe, and to see a train of these cars jostling for position, a real slipstreamer, is going to be a treat for us all. Tin top racing always resonates with spectators because, of course, the cars do resemble something that they've probably all been in, if not owned at one point. And yeah, it's going to be just going to be superb to see some of the top exponents of these cars let loose around the hallowed circuit.
Yeah, that does that looks good, and that's probably one of those, like you say, it's one of those ones that's a bit more familiar with the day to day. Well, not day to day, you know, the normal race weekends. I'm just going on to the next part on that, Marcus, because Formula Juniors, I'm a huge fan, and that's probably one of those, as ridiculous as it sounds, that's something I've become a fan of probably a little bit more a bit more recently, to be honest, where I sort of stumbled on them probably at the Autumn Classic, to be honest. And you know, I happen to have some people I class as friends or know quite well, whether that's the likes of John Hutchison. Well, John Hutchison Jr. and Senior, but John Hutchison Jr. is the one I know that was for a little while the competitions secretary at MG Car Club, as well as racing. Plus, I think it was at Classic Sports Car Club. He was involved in some way as well. And you've also got Adrian Russell from Woking that I knew from Caterham Racing. And, you know, I just find them that they're the best way that I explained them is that my granddad used to have a very old-fashioned Scalextric set, and it was these kind of cars that stick in my mind as being what was on there. And in fact, if I just quickly go,
they look like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
that's an Alexis, isn't it? But at the end of the day, Scalextric made a little single seater, and it was meant to be, I think, a Formula One Lotus. The Formula One Lotus 21 looked just like a Formula Junior Lotus 22 or
exactly.
a Junior Lotus 20, like a cigar tube with spindle tyres. They've got high revving engines, 1100cc, making well over 100 horsepower. They're very, very quick. They scream really well. They sound like racing cars should. And they're driven really very, very quickly as well. What's fantastic about this field is we have a driver in it, Richard Bradley, who finished 10th at Le Mans 2 weekends ago.
Wow.
And he's been driving in vintage cars with his father, Ed's Aston Martin, but he's got a beautiful Brabham in this. And Sam Wilson is also in the field. He's a very, very quick driver, but unfortunately his regular car isn't ready. But very sportingly, Simon Diffie, aka Diffmeister, has lent him his Lotuses, while he himself drives a beautiful, newly restored Lotus that Sam Wilson did for him, which was the car raced in period by Peter Waugh, the future Lotus team manager, which won a big Formula Junior race in Peter Waugh's hands at the Nürburgring, no less. So it's, again, a brilliant field of front-engine cars, rear-engine cars, Ford-powered cars, PMC-powered cars, a really, really strong field. And Duncan Gabaliati and his daughter, Sarah Mitrica, who basically orchestrates Formula Junior racing across the world from Lithuania, of all places, from Zagari. They do a magnificent job. And just a couple of years ago, the 60th anniversary of Formula Junior, they had a world tour that lasted 3 years. Visited all the theatres of warfare that Formula Junior had been in all around the world. And it was just absolutely magnificent. It culminated with a huge race at the Silverstone Classic with every conceivable Formula Junior car and driver aboard. It was just brilliant. So Formula Junior is something very special. In terms of previous winners, we've had another Villaroche. Villaroche has won. Bentilliers won. Richard Bradley won here 2 years ago in his Brabham BT2. Stuart Roach in that orange Lexus in your picture, he was the winner last time round from the New Forest. But it's a great field of cars, and I'm sure we're going to see a really sensational race for them.
Yeah, I do miss them. They look amazing. This one, I love this. The pre-66 Jaguars. I hope you don't mind. I'm sort of like flicking through it, Marcus. It probably makes sense.
In very, very nicely, because of course this is the race that has become the Jaguar Enthusiast Club Norman Jewis trophy in memory of the great Jaguar test driver who was well into his 90s and a regular visitor to the Autumn Classic before he passed away 18 months or so ago, something like that. But what this brings together is very, very quick E-type. It brings K120 there you see in the picture, some of the Mark 1 and Mark 2 saloons, which are always good value and handle incredibly well. Anthony Reid won the very first one of these. Anthony Reid, who we know from touring cars, and was also a podium finisher at Le Mans, going back to the sort of Porsche days. But he won in an E-type. Martin Hunt has been the most successful driver over the years. He's won 3 times in an E-type. Looking at the entry, which is again very strong. We've got some really, really top drivers in there, and I think it's going to be very entertaining as ever. There it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's one. I'll be honest and say the Jaguars is one of those ones that always sticks in my mind. You know, I as a 5-year-old started going to Castle Combe up at Quarry Corner with my dad. It's where I fell in love with racing. I won't talk dates, Marcus, because it'll just upset you if I talk about it. But it was
very young. I know that.
But yeah, well, I'm not that young, but it's the stepping stone, isn't it? Yeah, but seeing these big Jags is one of those things that sticks in my mind that me and my dad watching, because they don't look like race cars. They don't look like they handle like race cars. But they blooming well are thrown around the circuit like race cars.
We've got Alex Buncombe in the field, who's a local driver, Western-super-Mare driver, and he's going to be very, very difficult to beat in a quick E-type. He's raced modern GT cars with Nissan. In fact, his car is entered by Bob Neville, who was the team manager for those Nissan GTs. And interestingly, I remember Bob Neville doing motorsport in an MGP GT V8 about 100 years ago, and he was a very quick driver in his own right. Another quick driver in there is Mark Donner, I see, and Michael O'Brien also has an entry, McLaren GT racer and top historic Formula Ford man before that, son of Mike O'Brien, who raced in Formula Ford 2000, Formula 3, touring cars, etc., etc. So it's a strong field with some old stages as well. Talking of the saloons, I recall the saloons, the Risker Garages, Jaguar saloons, 3 of them running in Ford Trust Special saloons with the BARC back in the earlier part of the 70s, before I got involved as a writer. I was an enthusiast and a marshal, then everything else. So it really takes me back.
Well, Josh Barrett, another one of our commentator colleagues, he says, oh, let me just bring that one up. Cool to see Alex Buncombe in an E-type. Must be a while since he's raced at Combe, if he ever has. Any idea on that?
That's a very good point. I mean, his father, Jonathan, certainly has, and his grandfather, John, would have done as well. Yes, this could provide a nice trilogy and round that one off. I don't know the answer to your question, Josh, but I'll be sure to find out at the weekend.
I know you will, won't you? Definitely. But I've just suddenly, there we go. That's better. So that's the Jaguars. For some reason, it's now highlighted all the bits and pieces, so I can't see what I'm looking at. The Fraser Nashes.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. This again has a strong link to Castle Combe, because AFN Limited, which is Archie Fraser Nash, of the company that he founded to make these extraordinary chain drive cars back in the 1920s. AFN Limited owned the circuit effectively and ran it in some of its early days. These cars are amazing. Apart from the fact that they are phenomenally fast for something that's spindly and 90 years old, they are unbelievable. There are four massive chains running about half an inch below the driver's posterior, under a piece of wood. I'm not sure how strong the piece of wood is, or whether it's lined carbon fibre, sort of a pre-war carbon fibre in the mix, but I think I'd want it in there. But they're just brilliant things. The super sports models, particularly those with the very hot Meadows engines, are incredibly fast. Patrick Blakeney Edwards is the absolute starter, and he's the winningest, in inverted commas, driver in the history of the Autumn Classic. And last year's race, which was for the Freddie Giles Memorial Trophy, after a fantastic Fraser Nash racer of yore, was one of the absolute highlights of the weekend. And you can see the different angles those cars, the angles of the tail, completely in contrast to the angles of the wheels, and they don't have differential. They kind of throttly bit round the corners, but boy, they are fast.
But I mean, look at that. None of them are in a straight line, but look at the rear tyres making contact with the ground there. The deform on it goes to show how hard. Look at the top of the rear tyre on that front car, then look at the bottom. It just shows you how amazingly hard they throw these things around.
The sump underneath the third one, sort of indicating that you perhaps don't want to drive over the ripple curves.
Very true. Very true. Which have got more vicious this year, so keep an eye on that, Marcus.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's going to be a great race, and we'll see these cars out in other races also during the weekend. The VSCC, and the VSCC comes to town on Sunday. They're going to be great.
Just that they are awesome. I mean, if you see them parked up, you'll think nothing of them, will you? And then suddenly you watch them out on circuit, you go, okay.
This field this year is even bigger than last year's. They all got the message. They heard that it was a great one, and say Patrick Blakeney Edwards again, the man to beat. But I think it's just going to be super. His brother Simon has entered the car again for young Tom Waterfield, his stepson. So that's going to be good. Eddie Williams is very quick as well.
Martin Nash, is that a relation?
I don't know. He's on a Fraser Nash. I look at things. I think he put Martin Fraser Nash if it was that. But again, it's a superb field. It's something utterly unique, and something that I know will be a great favourite with everybody watching. If you weren't there last year to see the spectacle of this Freddie Giles Memorial Race, the first one, then you are absolutely in for a treat.
And I noticed there's a Joe Blakeney Edwards as well.
That's Joe Blakeney Edwards is Simon Blakeney Edwards' his wife, and she's a very quick expert. She's well capable of finishing in the top 4 or 5 in any company. Cool. Got an overseas contingent in the form of Yushin, who comes over and competes on a fairly regular basis with the Vintage Sports Car Club, and great to see these Fraser Nashes, and there'll be some GNs I'm thinking in there as well, which is the Godfrey Nash sort of sister mark, if you like. They're there too. Just brilliant.
Awesome, like it. Just quickly picking up, Graham Bloomfield, thanks for your message. Can we download the entry list anywhere? I assume there'll be no printed program again. Correct, no printed program, and yes, you will be able to download it when you go tomorrow. Probably the safest bet is look in the afternoon, go to the Castle Combe Circuit webpage, go to the Autumn Classic, and it should be there available for people to download. As far as I'm aware, I think they were hoping to get it sorted today, but I think Joe, bless her, Lukovic has had a torrid time with people in out, shake it all about, and a lot of cars to try and manage. So it's still trying to get it as up to date as possible before it's published. So keep your eye on that, and it will be there. It will be downloadable, or as Marcus has done, is print it out, whatever is necessary. So yes, it will be there and available for you. Right, where's my cursor gone? There it is. Let's go down. What's next?
It's a great race. The endurance race on Saturday afternoon, the GT and Sports Car Cup, which is supported by Dennis Welsh, Motorsport, the great Healy specialist, and Automobile Historique, which is run by Flavien Marseille and his wife Vanessa. And they put on a fabulous show wherever they go. It's an exclusive series for 366 GT cars, and you can see what a great field that is. That's actually a mix of GT and saloon cars from another series, but you get the gist. And entry to this series is by invitation. It's only 3 or 4 races a year, and they were at Castle Combe in 2017 and 18. They didn't come last year, but were absolutely clamouring to come back this time through. Out front will be the very quick Jaguar E-Type. We've got a couple of AC Cobras in there as well, 4.7 litre Ford V8 powered Cobras, one of which is driven by Mark Williams from Bristol, who's been a leading finisher in recent years. There are some early sports races as well. They're pre-63, and we've got Nardo Hartwell and Will Nuttall, Lotus 15. That's a sister car to the one here in 2017. That's a car with a 2-litre Coventry Climax FPF engine in it. Little Lola Mark 1, which is at the top of the entry list. Ben Adams and Nick Finberg. This is a car that was on pole at Thruxton recently, and led till it ran out of fuel towards the end of the race. This is a car that raced at Castle Combe in 1966, driven by a guy called Dickie Lestrange Metcalf, who won the very final race at Goodwood in 66 as well, and went on to race a McLaren-bodied Lotus 23C in other events. The Healys have a massively strong following from Bristol, of course, the legacy of John Chatham. We've got local drivers Chris Clarkson and David Smithies, known as Lord Borneo and Otto Sergei, respectively, David Meerkat Smithies. And they drive a very quick Healy. We've got Christian Van Lanschot and Jeremy Welsh there in another Healy 3000, a very famous car that went to Le Mans a couple of times in the early 60s with David Dixon and Kerry Chilton. Piston has Marino Franchitti, modern sports prototype racer, in his E-Type. That's an earlier spec car, so won't mix it with the GT4 spec cars unless track conditions prove very slippery. We've got some superb Morgan +4 SLRs, and certainly there were 3 originally on the list, but I think we've just got the 2 now, the 2.1 litre cars. These are the aerodynamic coupes built by Sprinzel Lawrence June Racing on the base of a Morgan +4, and Keith Arles and Billy Bellinger drive one of them, John Emberson and Bill Wickham the other. They are fully competitive with the Healy 3000, so they're giving away a lot of power and a lot of torque. We also say we have a couple of Shelby Mustangs in the field, same engine as the Cobras, and Nigel Greensall, our outright record holder at Castle Combe on the old circuit, the previous circuit. He will be in good form with another GT3 E-Type, as will James Hanson, former BTCC racer, going back a few years. It's a superb field. Ben Cussons is there from MSA with David Clark in the car there, I think it was. Who else is there? Well, we've got some quick Jaguar GT4 cars. They're the quickest cars, and we will see them in the hands of. Trying to think who's there. John Clark and Miles Griffiths. They're in a quick car. Miles Griffiths, who won this race in 17 in Walker's Lotus 15. He shares with John Clark, Scottish motor baron. That'll be great to see. I think that Gary Pearson's there. Yes, he is. He's the winner from 2 years ago, defending champion, if you like. Lebanese driver Gregoire Audi with his AC Cobra. Mark Williams mentioned with his couple of Mustangs. He's also got some very quick and nimble Lotus Elan 26Rs. Dan Cox, local hero at Castle Combe, he drives one of them, which he shares that with John Watson. I believe that Matthew Watts is going to be in that as well from Retro Track and Air over in Dursley. Probably a first for him, I believe. And but also see, I think Andrew Haddon and Andy Wolf are out in a quick Elan as well. Both very, very rapid drivers. So that's a superb race. It's tactical. There'll be 2 pit stops per car. In the case of driver's owner has to do more than 50%. It's a double-driven car. So I think it'll end up being just a stunning race.
Just
always is good.
And just picking up there, that looks like a couple of local drivers. Jeremy Cook, who races a BMW in the GTs.
Right.
Friends of Kevin Bird and Russell Humphrey, of course.
Yeah, and yes, of course, Jeremy Cook drove the BMW with Cab, didn't he?
Yeah.
One of the races earlier this year. And Jeremy's got another hot shoe, another local hot shoe, Russell Humphrey. So that will end up being.
Didn't even know they had that Shelby Mustang, so that would be interesting to see.
Lovely cars tucked away.
And apologies if you did talk about it, but I was trying to multitask a couple of things. But just suddenly picking up Keith Arlers and Billy Bellinger, 2 amazing pilots of Morgans. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are these superb Morgans. Forget how a Morgan Plus 4 looks normally. This is an aerodynamic aluminium body fastback coupe. And the suspension is similar. The Triumph engine is the same as in the TR4, like the one that Alan and Daniel Ross Brown drive. But there were 3 of them made in period, plus a Triumph SLR as well. One of them. All 4 cars still exist. And it's always a great pleasure to see them, particularly because they're driven very strongly. Look also for Julian Bronson, another great Bristolian, a great supporter of the Autumn Classic over the years. He, through his Bristol Forklifts company, has been a sponsor of the event and always brought nice cars to demonstrate, including his Grand Prix Scarab. He shares his 7-litre Chevrolet Corvette Stingray with Barry Cannell, who's a quick driver who's won races also, as has Julian, in the HGPCA, Historic Grand Prix Cars Association, over the years. So some really top drivers in there, and among them our lap record holder Nigel Greensall, who will get a special cheer, I'm sure, from many of the marshals and many of those who recognise some great talent when they see it.
Josh again saying Jeremy Welch was fantastically spectacular at Snetterton last month, and his big Healy should be a lot of fun around Combe.
Absolutely guaranteed. Jeremy is very spectacular, as of course was his late father Dennis in Heelys. And it's not unusual to see Jeremy jump between 2 cars in one of these races and bring them both home in the top 6. I mean, kind of thing. Obviously not driving both at the same time, but it takes some very cleverly coordinated pit stops, put it that way. But they always seem to manage very, very well. They won at Thruxton with Mark Holm and the very, very famous SMO 746, the car which the late John Gott, who was Chief Constable of Northamptonshire, raced very extensively. It was an ex-works rally car which got modified over the years, became a big-winged motorsports car eventually, then was very sympathetically restored back to how it should have been originally. And it was wonderful to see. It was first time out for Mark Gulman in that car. He was a Fun Cup racer, and he ended up atop the podium or the virtual podium with Jeremy Welsh as his wingman.
And you remember I said at the start, people, that this guy's got amazing recall. That was your proof right there. Just to see it, Marcus Pye's recall is humbling to say the least. So I had to just suddenly say that. It just never ceases to amaze me, mate. Your recall is just second to none. Formula Vintage.
Yeah, Formula Vintage. It's all part of the Vintage Sports Car Club. It's been going since the 1930s. This particular field has been one that's been on the bill with the Autumn Classic for a number of years now. And it's always been there. In fact, since the start, effectively, it hasn't always been known as Formula Vintage. But what it does, it brings a great selection of pre-war cars together. It's part of what they call the ODM series, owner, driver, mechanic. So effectively, it encourages drivers to do their own thing with the cars, prepare them, probably drive them in many cases to the events, and hopefully home again afterwards. It's a superb entry again. We've got everything from tiny little Morgan Aeros with Jap engines, Jap V-twin engines, all three-wheeler cars, just incredible. To some pretty mighty things like Mark Brett's Bellamy Ford, the Lawrence Bellamy built V8 engine special, which is quick. We've got the Railton there, I see, of Tug Fenwick Wilson, which is an interesting car. And we've got little diminutive supercharged MGs in there. John Guyot, who organises the series with his partner Leslie, and they put it together. John runs a fabulous Turbo Largo T150C, which always runs very, very strongly. I'm trying to think of really who's going to be the winner in this. I mean, obviously we've got Patrick Blakeney Edwards in his Fraser Nash. He's going to be very, very strong, very tough to beat. We've had over the years various winners in this. We've got plenty of Rileys in there, Albuses, Alfa Romeos as well. Aston Martin Le Mans, which is a glorious machine. But over the years, Werter and a Jaguar, the Scott from Elgin, the FS100, Fred Wakeman, who is a Californian who's been working over here, he's won it a couple of times in his Fraser Nash. Pat Blakeney has had a couple of wins. Sam Stretton's won in an Alta. Mark Gillies, who a Brit based in the States, he's won an Aston Martin Speed model. So it's a very, very open field. And it just depends on who really sort of masters the conditions best on the day. That's Formula Vintage, the owner, driver, mechanic. And look at that.
Do they all look like that?
Absolutely. Well, not all, but a lot of them do. The three-wheeler Morgans don't, Chris. But
yeah, of course. But they're just stunning, aren't they? And they're the ones that, this kind of racing is a godsend, because otherwise these things would just be decaying in garages, wouldn't they?
Well, they get absolutely cherished in many cases through several generations of the same family. Look at the François Sever helmet in the second of those cars there, one of the Rileys.
And his headlights facing inwards.
Of course, that's to reduce wind resistance.
Of course, absolutely. It all counts.
The front of it. But yeah, it always
stunning.
And it's, again, a very, very different type of spectacle, and one that's most welcome at the Autumn Classic. What's
the sit then? I mean, looking at that, and I'm just trying to decipher, that looks like lap belts only. But surely in this day and age, is that? Am I just imagining that?
Don't have to have lap belts only. I think probably there's a choice, and bear in mind that in the day they didn't wear lap belts.
Yeah, absolutely.
A large proportion of the drivers would prefer to have exited the car when something solid than to still be part of it.
Which I've seen. I know that Dad and I went to Coy's Classic at Silverstone many, many years ago, and we were stood on the inside of Copse, and someone in something like this rolled, and it looked ghastly because they, of course, the car rolled, they then stopped, and the car kept rolling. It looked horrible, but of course it meant that the driver just stood up and was fine.
Just remember when I was mentioning it earlier on, in the early 50s, Sterling Moss managed to trip over a Connells, I think, in a race, and he got flung out of his 500 and broke a collarbone, but otherwise he was pretty much unscathed and was soon back in the saddle. And it was just a minor scratch in comparison to the enormous accident he was going to have at Goodwood in 1962.
Wow, incredible. Then it's the Mini 7, so we've had the Miglias and we've now got the 7s.
And they'll be absolutely manic, of course. Again, a big field of cars, so very closely matched. It's all about driver ability because the cars are very, very similar. And looking at that, you've got Jeff Smith in there, who's an ex-touring car racer. Who else?
And of course his other half, Joe Polly, the two of them will be there going hard with that one.
Absolutely.
Jeff just got a victory actually at Brands Hatch, I think, recently, didn't he?
And I think that he therefore comes in with confidence buoyed and expectant of a very strong drive.
Indeed. I mean, as you say, I don't know why it's messing me about now. Where have I gone? Too far. That was the answer. Right, let's go down. Let's use this. So yes, it's the. I mean, we always love this. As I coined the phrase when I was on the commentary when we had the other minis recently with us, is that as they go around the corner, they cock their rear wheel, looking like a dog needing a wee. And I've always thought that since I've watched. They're absolutely brilliant.
I've never thought that, but
no, I do. They just cock their rear corner. It's brilliant. Thermex All Stars.
Yeah, the Historic Racing Drivers Club, Julius Thurgood, the All Stars are a mix of GT and touring cars, pre-66 again, and it brings a super collection of cars together. The top All Star was young Mr. Colburn at Lyddon a couple of weeks ago in a little Sebring Sprite type thing, a Lenham Sprite GT, Ben Colburn, and he was uncatchable there, which was great because the car was perfectly attuned to the 50 circuit, and Ben, who's a very, very rapid young driver, was absolutely unbeatable. No one could live with him, and it didn't matter where he put the car on the track. He could go past people left, right, underneath, absolutely superb. So really, really pleased with that. But there's a big mix of cars from.
Isn't there?
You've got Alex Thistlethwaite driving his Ford Mustang. There's a name to conjure with. His grandfather raced a Bentley at Le Mans in the 1920s. He was known as Scrap Thistlethwaite, so I call Alex Scrap Junior. Really. But that'll be good to see. Again, we've got
this is who we heard from earlier, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, you got David Smithies is running his Shelby Daytona Cobra Coupe evocation.
I saw that one at the top, and that car is stunning, isn't it?
It is absolutely brilliant. It was made a couple of years ago. He's been running it only in recent seasons, but it's a kind of a tool room copy of what was around back in the day. The Austin Healey Jamaica.
What's that?
It's the only one. It's a very, very strange bodied Healey 3000, and it defies description, really. If anything, it looks, I don't know, it looks like a sort of a kind of kit car from the day, which is what it was. But it has an interesting backstory in that the guy who designed and built it was later had up for disposing of his wife.
Right. Okay. That's not history I was expecting you and I to be discussing here tonight.
It's sort of it's something that we've got to hear over the years. It's a very, very odd machine. Andrew Haddon's Elan 26R is an interesting car in there. That's a car which is put together by Andy Wolf and is very, very fast. We've got
What's that? Jaguar Lister Knobbly.
A Lister Jaguar Knobbly. Yeah, that's going to be very fast. That is effectively a 1950s sports racer, although this one wasn't built in the 50s. It's built to the same pattern, made by Listers in Cambridge, the originals. Works driver, of course, Archie Scott Brown, who was absolutely brilliant, but lost his life, sadly, at Spa. There were two distinct types of Lister Jaguar. There was the one with the smooth body, which was done by Costin, Frank Costin, the de Havilland aerodynamicist, did that one. And the Knobbly was a much more closely packed shrink-wrap car, which Sterling Moss described rather splendidly as pugnacious, which I think sort of is one way of looking at it. We've got Gilburn GTs in the field as well, the Welsh cars. Made at Llantwit Fadr, and again, it's a phenomenal mix. We've got the Aston A35 speed wheels, the A40 speed wheels,
a Vauxhall
VX490, yeah, Paul Clayson's VX490, and first time I saw a VX490 competing, of course, was in drag racing. Someone built a VX490 funny car, Roland Pratt, I think, the Hillbillies team. 70s, but that looked nothing like this one. Quick minis as well, and the quickest of the Cortinas is almost certain to be that of the Ginetta racing champion Roy Alderslade, who was a double winner at Lyddon with the HRDC last month. And look at that other name further up the list, a real candidate running up front, the great Dave Coyne. He got all the way as far as Formula 3000 before finally his lack of money stymied his career. He was on the verge of getting to Formula 1. He won the Formula Ford Festival for Swift back in the day, and he was a winner recently in this field at Thruxton with this beautiful Mustang, which is a tribute car built by the Wood Brothers, the great NASCAR team, as a replica of the car that AJ Foyt drove. It's owned by Jonathan Miles and looked after by Tony Absalom and driven brilliantly by the great Dave Coyne.
Wow, fair play. And there's so many cars in that one that it doesn't even have a photo at the bottom. That's a good sign of the field, isn't it?
It's going to be good. Fisker on the list. We're getting towards the end now. Fiskars are the 50s sports cars. And again, a splendid mix. Fisker Intermark has been a strong race over the years. Won by Jaguar C-Type, Aston Martin DB2, Lotus Elite, Bristol, Aston Martin DB3F, Fraser Lash, Le Mans Rep, and last time in 2019, quite brilliantly, by Jonathan Abacassis, grandson of George Abacassis, who won the Red X International Trophy at Castle Combe back in the mid-50s, 56, I think it was, in the HWM car that he built with John Heath, HWM Jaguar, and he won it by, and that's Whisker, from Louis Rosier, winner of the 1950 Le Mans 24 Hours, who drove 23 hours of the 24 himself, and handed his car over just for the other hour while he took a quick nap and went off for a shower or something, handed it over to his son. So it's a lovely field, one that's very photogenic, as are many of them. But the little Lotus Elite with their 1216cc Climax FWE engine, they are really superb little cars, that above their weight. The car at the front there is the car that won the Fisker Flyers race here, when it was held as a one-off event, which is the Lico MG of the Scottish-American Alexander McQueen Quattlebaum, who lives in a castle in Scotland when he's over here.
As you do.
Yeah, I mean, you probably have one. I certainly do.
I try not to brag about it, Marcus, but yeah.
Englishman's home is his castle, as they say. Watch for in the field. Watch for Richard Tyzack and Nick Taylor with the amazing Kellison, which managed to catch fire on the grid last year. Hopefully it won't this time round. That'll be interesting. We've got a Jowett Jupiter in there, the flat 4 engine car from Bradford with Harry Nerger driving it. MGA, Quick Morgans, Triumph TRs, Connaught ALSR, which is a fascinating car. That's Paul Griffin's car. It was driven by the likes of Sterling Moss back in the 1950s. And also this extraordinary recreation of the Bristol 450, which we're going to see Andrew Mitchell drive. There's a feature in this week's Autosport about it, which Kevin Turler's written. And in this week's Autosport out today, a full supplement devoted to Castle Combe and its history and build up to the Autumn Classic.
Yeah, do go and grab Autosport. You've got to. Castle Combe have got a massive of pages in there, and we thank you to Autosport for giving us that coverage. No mention of Combe TV in there, I noticed, by the way.
Not my call. I mean, I'm just an outside fella. Watch also this Christopher Mann there, the lovely Alfa Romeo, which is I see in the middle of the list, the 6C 3000 PR, a car that was crashed at Monza by test driver Stanesi back in the 50s and then rebuilt lovingly over the years. And it's one of the early Disco Volante Alfa Romeos, the flying saucer. And it's brilliant. Look for the Ace Bristols as well, with the Bristol engine, produced locally, but based on the pre-war BMW unit. And those Aces are just stunning and, of course, have phenomenal value as well. So it really is a great field. Nick Wigley drives Cooper Bristol T2425, another car with very significant Castle Combe history. It's a car that Tony Crook, who ran Bristol cars for so many years, competed in, owned by Peter Mann, and is still in that very redolent metallic Dubonnet colour, which was Tony Crook's trademark.
Just amazing names. I mean, things like Sunbeam Alpine and an Allard J2.
Yeah, is a quick car again, a concoction with a fairly basic British chassis, a massive Cadillac V8 engine, 5.4 litres. It's driven by young Oliver Llewellyn, who is probably a third generation racer. He raced in Ginettas for a while and normally shares this car with his dad. But the Allards are brilliant. I raced one at Spa about 10 or 12 years ago for Malcolm Veary, or with Malcolm Veary. 5.4 Cadillac, very, very fast in a straight line, no aerodynamics. When you jump on the brakes at the top of the Kemmel Straight, it's anyone's guess which way it's going to slew. But it was fascinating. I christened it the blunderbuss. And at the next meeting, it appeared with blunderbuss, pre-cut lettering very neatly across the boot. And it summed it up very, very nicely.
Love it. Absolutely brilliant. Jack Sears Trophy.
Yep, Jack Sears Trophy, another from the Julius Thurgood Historic Racing Drivers Club stable. Jack Sears is what we used to call the Coys 100 race. Jack Sears, twice winner of the British Saloon Car Championship. First time in 1958, when it was sorted by a runoff at the end of the season. He'd been racing at Austin Westminster A105 during the year, but he had a runoff, and they took, was it Riley 1.5? I think something like that, to Brands Hatch, and the two of them fought out over a series of laps, driving each car for 5 laps or 10 laps or something like that, and he ended up winning that championship. Gentleman Jack, as he was known, went on to be a works Lotus driver in the Cortinas, etc. He drove Wilmot cars. Won the Autosport race at 3 hours race at Snetterton in the unique Wilmot Cobra Coupe. Won the British Saloon Car Championship for the second time in '63 at the wheel of Wilmot 7-litre Ford Galaxy. And just an all-round top bloke. made his competition debut at the Brighton Speed Trials in the 40s in an MG, and continued to drive brilliantly in Cobras, that sort of thing. Had an enormous accident at Silverstone in a Lotus 30. Sports racing car with a V8 in the back of it, which dampened his ardour a tad. And then he sort of went off and concentrated on being a gentleman farmer in Norfolk, which was brilliant. And shortly before he died, we were able to get him into a Cobra Coupe and did a few laps at Snetterton, which was absolutely marvellous, courtesy of a great friend, Leo Boisvides.
And it's the same Jack Sears that it is still the Independence Trophy in the touring cars, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah, very much. And a wonderful man, and family made its fortune in shoes in the early days. But his father, Stanley Sears, was a motorsport mad chap who had a great car collection. And so it passed on. And David Sears, his son, won the RAC British Formula Ford Championship in a Royale car in the 1970s. Yes, would have been 1979. Went on to Formula 3 the following year in an Argo.
Well, I mean,
the Argo that I had a massive crash in at Castle Combe in 1986. Can't remember now. A long time ago. July the 4th, American Independence Day.
Unbelievable, mate. You really are. But looking at this field, I mean, it's just, I haven't even gone too far down yet, but just looking at it, and there's some intriguing who's driving as well as amazing cars. I mean, I'm looking down through this list. James and Peter Dorlin, they ring a bell.
Yeah, the Dorlins are modern racing as well as...
in like the Clios and stuff.
Absolutely. They've got Grant Williams from South Wales, who shares with Ross Hyatt, the RDC member, and Jaguar Mark II, the old By-One car, the old Coombs, Roy Salvadori machine. Down the order, we have all manner of things. Ford Falcon Sprint, and that's our old friends Chris Clarkson and David Smithies again. That'll be a great car. 4.7 litre Ford V8 under the bonnet, same as the Mustangs, but lighter. Larry Tucker and his son have a Shelby GT350. Bill Shepherd and his lad Fred, they have another Mustang. And then there is an absolute host of Mini Cooper S's. Alec Isagonis' finest, but titivated by John Cooper and the Cooper Car Company to great spec. And some superb drivers in that. Of course, Mike and Andy Jordan are the absolute bee's knees.
And Patrick Watts as well, above them.
Watts as well, and they will be good. He'll be very, very fast as ever. The Lotus Cortinas are there in depth as well, and look for the A35s and A40s, which will put on a phenomenal show. So it's all about interclass racing, as the Touring Car Championship always was. And it's not only for overall glory, it's for glory in your class. And there's such a lot of great drivers, great cars in there.
Yeah, there's Richard Fours that I was talking about earlier in that Alpha, as I suspected.
And Richard Dutton, of course, the team chief these days, driver manager, running cars all right up to the sort of to the verge of Grand Prix racing, really, with his team based in Rugby.
The Colburns, they're Clio.
Westbourne Motorsport. They have
That's it. Yeah.
With the HRDC. The quickest of the Cortinas will be Richard Dutton's, I'm sure. It's a car with a very strong Neil Brown engine in it. And Royal Displays out again. He drives the Cortina that he won in Linden. So, looking good.
Obviously, sadly, that we're not going to see Chris Rea in his Morris Minor police car. He's not out this time, which is a shame.
No, absolutely. But we wish him well. But he's been pretty unwell for quite a long time, and has done extremely well to do as much racing as he has.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree. Formula Vintage All-Comers Scratch Race.
This is kind of a race that they love to put together. Pretty much anybody who has come through the previous ODM race and a few others will be out there. in a wide variety of cars, just some stunning machines. And again, cars of all sizes, some very quick cars, some small engine but supercharged, some big engine like the. I'm sure there's going to be, apart from the Rileys, there's going to be a big Bentley in there somewhere. I wonder if there will. No, I don't think there is at the end of the day. But Edward Bradley's Aston Martin demands some attention. Of course, he's dad of Richard, our recent Le Mans hero, who will go well. But everything from diminutive Austin Sevens, Archie Waterfield having a go in the car which his brother debuted a few years ago. And so the Bellamy's back at that point. Aston Martin, Wolseley, Hornet, that'll be fast. The Rodney Seaver driven car could be a bit temperamental, but it's certainly quick.
What's a Bellamy Ford?
Bellamy, Lawrence Bellamy was an engineer. He's the guy who devised the split front axle for put on Ford Pops and things like that. The E93A, set up and beg car. And this is a concoction that he put together. It's Battleship Grey. It's a really thuggish thing, which Mark Brett drives very, very nicely, and it's got a pretty stonking, lumbering Ford V8 engine under the bonnet, which will go very nicely. There's a quick Morgan Le Mans special, Philip Goddard, we normally see in a +8. He's out there, and Joe Blakely Edwards. She will go really nicely in the Fraser Nash Supersport. So. Yep.
What a mix, eh? That is incredible, isn't it?
Superb, absolutely brilliant.
Wow. And that photo's back again, so good mix. HRDC Classic Alpha Challenge as well.
Brings up the end of the programme, Dawsy. And this is a mark which is steeped in motorsport history, of course. Alfa Romeo going back to the pre-war years and Grand Prix contenders in the 1930s, but it goes back further than that. It's a field that started to come together last year, and there are one or two interlopers in there as well, based on the grid. But I think it's all the major focus will be on the Alphas. They were out at Lyddon a couple of weeks ago, and were strong there. And who is there among the contenders to try to take the race to Richard Merrill. Richard Merrill with his Alfa Romeo Giulia GT Junior, which is GT Juniors for 1300cc cars, but it just comes out with a 2-litre engine. He's been the man to beat. But the guy who could beat him potentially is Chris Snowden, who's been racing these cars for many years, racing in Sport 2000 as well, and goes back way back to Autosport as well. Chris, based in Chichester down near Goodwood, he drives a beautiful Alfa Romeo Alfetta with big wings and the Napolina colours. A car that was raced by the late John Dooley, who passed away fairly recently. He was the man who raced Napolina Alphas for about a decade in the British Saloon Car Championship, as it was then. Won his class 3 times in Alfa Sud, Alfetta GTV, and also a 75. But this car is owned by Richard Melvin, beautifully turned out, and a car which certainly is probably the best contender if Richard Merrill doesn't continue his winning streak with the white GT Junior. GTAs, the legendary GTAs, their Paul Chase Gardner has one, the lightweight, very well homologated cars. They've got 5-speed boxes, they've got disc brakes, they're super light bodies, etc. This is the classic Alfa, rather like the red and yellow one you see in that picture, which is the classic 105 shaped Alfa Romeo, Bertone style car. We've got Julius Supras as well, you can see in that picture. A tiny little, I think it's a Giulietta in there as well, which is a car to watch. The one with the red car with the blue stripe over the side which is Gavin Watson's car. I think it's on the list. I hope it is. It is. That's Little Giulietta TI from '62, and that car, unbelievably, was Mike Jordan's wife's dad's car, which was used as something to take the kids to school and on track back in the day. So a long racing history.
Wow, I mean they just look beautiful, don't they, as well? But I just loving the history there. So as you say, that is the end of that. And as it says there, official merchandise available from the Quarry Food Bar and if you're in the paddock, Cafe Bar H.
I thought it was called Cafe Bar H rather than Cafe H Bar.
Yeah, that's a mistake on that one, isn't it? I think I'll need to make them aware of that. It's Cafe Bar H, not Cafe H Bar. And there is the Autumn Classic 2020 bits and pieces that, by the looks of it, are for sale. Really cool, and loving that. The Retros t-shirt there, of course. And it's all available, castlecombecircuit.co.uk/merchandise. That's been set up as of this year. And so that will be good. Just quickly picking up because I'm going to grass him up now because Mike Cotton says, might have to try and get my name down for Sunday too. Don't tell my wife.
Your secret's safe with us, Mike.
Yeah, just no one's going to know. I have, we might have just announced it, but don't panic. Yes, it's. I don't blame you when you go through that. Is that you're going to want to get down there? So make sure you get yourself the tickets available until midday tomorrow. I'm guessing that means you got the Saturday, yep, and you'll plan to do the other day. And Andy Abrams says, Chris Snowden, Nigel Mustall and myself all started off in sprinting and hill climbing in the mid-'70s. And Andy Abrams was racing at the finals weekend, which is good to see. Chris Snowden I saw on the list, and Nigel Mustall will both be there this weekend as well. So and that's the beauty of it as well, Marcus, is that, as you said about the history at the circuit, and so many people can, just bring up so many stories with themselves, none more so than yourself. I mean, clearly you could tell from the way that you were taking us through that, you're looking forward to this, aren't you?
It's one of my favourite events of the year, I'll have to say. I think with the Spa 6 Hours, which sadly we lost this year, I've been to every one of those since 1997 when I competed in it, Lotus Elan 26R and Lotus 23B. And I hadn't missed one. And of course, I haven't missed this year's because, well, it didn't happen. But I will be going back in 2021. Let's hope that everything will be better then. But for me, the Spa 6 Hours has always been a precursor in recent years to the Castle Combe Classic, which I enjoy equally for different reasons. And I just, having been to Castle Combe now for all those years, 53 years, it's something that I certainly couldn't live without. And the Autumn Classic just is the icing on the cake at the end of the season for me.
No, absolutely. Well, Marcus, thank you so much for agreeing to come on, my friend. I know that you and I always have a good laugh and chat about all things motor racing, but it was a pleasure to take time out to join us to preview this and to let us feel the emotion and passion that you've got for the weekend ahead. And hopefully everyone else is bubbling up themselves now.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure. Always is. Very happy to do anything I can for Castle Combe, and it's been a big part of my life. And just love it. Been great to have your company this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Also, thank you for your messages, etc. I'm looking forward to talking to you about the racing. Hopefully, to entertain, perhaps educate a bit as well over the weekend. It's only about 36 hours ish away or something like that before I set off for Castle Combe, and I'm just looking forward to it so much.
Absolutely. Well, perfect words. Thank you, Marcus. Appreciate it. Have a fantastic weekend. Shame that I'm not going to be there, but you have a great one, and we'll catch up properly soon, I'm sure.
Enjoy your trek to Saturday and close the doors.
Thanks, mate. I'm going to put you in the green room. You hang fire there. Feel free to go to the loo if you need it, because I've kept you for a while, but we'll catch up after the show. I'll put you in the green room and I'll wrap up this show. But thank you, Marcus. Bye.
Great pleasure. Good night, everybody.
So that was the preview of the Autumn Classic. I told you it was special to get someone with Marcus Pye's knowledge, enthusiasm for motor racing, and I know a lot of you loved the background there as well. And thank you very much for all of your comments, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Graham Bloomfield says, no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing, and tyres. You're absolutely right. Tim Perry says, thank you guys, it's been amazing. Looking forward to the weekend ahead. Thank you, Marcus. And I'm sure many of you sort of feel the same way. I hope it's got you in the mood. Get yourself some tickets if you haven't already. Remember, the download should be, I'd imagine it's tomorrow. There isn't physical tickets, so don't worry about that. And spectators will be going in at Quarry, but you can now go all the way around to camp. The clubs will be going in at camp, and they will be set up there, so you'll be able to see all of that. Keep yourself safe. Remember the 6-person rule. Remember the masks when you're going into the enclosed spaces like toilets and washing your hands and queuing for food. Just keep it safe. We've got another meeting after this, the Classic Sports Car Club on the 24th of October. So let's keep it going. Thank you so much for everything. It's been a pleasure. Tim Perry says, amazing, Dawsy. Take care and have fun. Thank you, mate. Appreciate it. Sorry I'm not with you this weekend. Sorry I'm not doing the live feed for this one. I'll be back on the Classic Sports Car Club one, but not sure about the feed yet. There's a discussion, but we're not sure yet. We'll wait and see. Jamie Peters-Ennis, thank you for a fantastic show. Thanks, guys and girls. I appreciate that. Lovely comments. I hope you have enjoyed it. Hope that you're going to go and enjoy the Autumn Classic. So from Marcus Pye and myself, Chris Dawes, or aka Dawsy, and of course my gin, I'm going to leave you to have a very nice evening. Thank you so much for joining. Yeah, and as said, dilly, absolutely. We'll see you all very soon. Good evening.
Becoming a racing driver has never been easier with Castle Combe Circuit. Book your ARDS Novice Drivers Training course at the Wiltshire venue today. The easiest and quickest way into competitive on-track action.
Welcome to Castle Combe. My name's Alan Cooper. I'm the Chief Driving Racing Instructor here at this circuit. We're here today to do the Novice Driver Training course, often known as the ARDS course, which is the first way to start off and get your racing driving licence. So, no further ado, let's get on and show you what's involved.
So you've seen the format. Everyone here today passed their tests and now have their racing licence. Who knows? The next time I see them could be as I commentate on them in front of the usual packed house of racing fans here at Castle Combe Circuit. All you need to do to be next is to visit castlecombecircuit.co.uk and select Become a Racing Driver under the Racing tab. Becoming a racing driver is easier than you think with Castle Combe Circuit and Motorsport UK.